What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Around the World in San Francisco. As you can see me here, I'm on my bicycle and I'm about to turn onto O'Farrell Street in San Francisco. This is close to Union Square. There's not many people still out, and this is like around 5 or 5:30 in the evening, and the roads are pretty empty, but it's still a nice ride. Anyway, what I'd like to share with you today is a story. And the title of this piece is called Worshipping Jesus at a Black Church in Bed-Stuy. So this is part of my spiritual journey. You know, I am a very spiritual person, and I've been on a spiritual journey now for my whole life, but I'm going to tell you a part of my spiritual journey, and it involves a church in Brooklyn, in Bed-Stuy. So when I was about 21 years old, I decided I had this really strong feeling inside of me that like I needed to find something like spiritually. I needed to find a divine purpose, right? And so when I was 21 years old, I was living in Los Angeles, and I was going to UCLA. I was going to the UCLA Film School, which is one of the best film schools in the world. But I decided to drop out and to pursue this spiritual journey, right? And I went to New York. Now, when you say like spiritual journey, nowadays people are like kind of think like, oh, well, that's crazy, right? But in the past, like, people went on quests and journeys all the time. Like, if you had this feeling that you had to do something, you went and did it, right? Because the worst thing in life would be to reach the end of your life and then think like, oh man, I wish I would have done this and I wish I would have done that, right? You don't want to have regrets. So when I had this very strong feeling, I decided to go out and do it. And so while I was in New York, eventually I ended up in Brooklyn, in Bed-Stuy. And on a Sunday morning, I was eating something like down by the subway stop, not the Subway sandwich shop, like the actual Subway, right? And then this man like walked past me, and he was wearing a suit. It was a black man wearing a suit. And we started talking, and then one thing led to another, and he was like, hey, you know, we're having a worship service here over at our church around the corner. Would you like to come? And I was like, well, sure. I didn't have anything else to do, and so I decided to join him. And his name was Deacon Jones. He's a very nice man. He's pretty tall, slender guy, and I think he could tell like you know, I didn't have anybody there, and you know, that I was pretty sincere and genuine, so he invited me to the church. When I went to the church, it was really amazing. It was very simple. It was just like one room, and there was live music. They were playing gospel worship music, and the band was made up of kids of members of the congregation. So that they had a great drum player, bass player, someone was on the keyboards, and then someone was doing like lead vocals, and everyone would repeat the vocals. And the music was just really special. You know, it really, like, I'm the type of person that, you know, if I hear, you know, this kind of music and this vibe going, like, I don't hold anything back. So I started dancing, and I was singing along with them, you know, and it was all for worship of Jesus. You know, they were all there to worship Jesus. And I thought that was just so cool. It was so special, you know, because like, maybe like materially, a lot of the people in the church, I don't know, you know, if they had like much, right? I would say they're like pretty humble materially, but you know, I think they're really rich because of their heart, right? Because they have that community, they're together for a divine purpose. So I see them as being like very rich, in my eyes at least. And anyway, there was another man in the church. His name was Reverend Jowers, and he, like, I got to know him pretty well, but he was missing like a digit from his pointer finger on his right hand, and like he saw that like I was like looking at it and stuff like that, so he like talked to me about it, and he said that he was like involved in, drugs and the whole gang thing, with guns and all this kind of stuff, and he was like in and out of jail for like 10 years. And he said that when he gave his life to Jesus Christ, that was when he changed, right? And he had kids and a family, a wife, right? And so this changed everything, not just for him, but for his family too. So he was always there at the church, and he wore a suit, but he wore like one of the long suits like that I see people wear, right? And it's like a trench coat almost. It's pretty cool. Anyway, one thing I wanted to share about is like there's been a lot going on in America regarding race, this whole Black Lives Matter movement, and there's a lot of violence going on, and people are upset. They want to destroy statues and this kind of stuff. But the thing about it is like Black people have already done and added so much to American culture. And the point I want to use is specifically like with music and art performance, right? Because a lot of our music is actually like derived from Black culture, right? Like for example, like Elvis Presley, before he became the king of rock and roll, he was into gospel music, and he was like those are Black songs. Those are songs that Black people sang, right? And that's how he got his start, was singing those kinds of songs, right? So Black people have already added a tremendous amount to the American culture, and even like look at like hip hop music, that whole culture, it's added so much, right, to American culture. I would say Black, white, everybody, So I just wanted to add that. And the other thing is that all of these arts, like gospel music, R&B, all of these that come from Black people, I would say, if they didn't have tragedy in their lives, right? Like, for example, slavery and discrimination and oppression, maybe they're not able to create those tremendous things, that tremendous music, right? And that tremendous culture. It's like tragedy happens, okay? Like tragedies happen all throughout history. But if you're able to take it, you can actually transform the pain into something good, right? Into something virtuous. And that's what I thought about, a lot when I was at that church. Was I was trying to learn, basically. I was trying to learn how people worship. I was trying to learn like how different people see different religions, right? That was part of my spiritual quest. And to see those people, how sincere they were in worshiping Jesus, it just really moved my heart, touched my heart, and I'm just so grateful for them. Actually, I went back a few years later, and went to their church service again, and I took my mom, and that was pretty fun. And the leaders of the church, Deacon Jones and Reverend Jowers, were a big part of it, but the leaders were actually females. So it was like a matriarchal society. They were like really powerful female figures. And that reminds me of in Greece, in Crete, the island of Crete, the culture, like the ancient culture there, it's a matriarchal society. like you see a lot of the ancient statues, and they're all like to women, to females. So it's interesting to see that like they have such strong female figures, like basically running the show there. That was pretty cool. But anyway, I just, that for some reason that thought came into my mind within the last few days, just because of everything that's going on in regards to race. And I've interacted a lot with Black people, and so I'm pretty comfortable talking to them, and I've learned a lot from them, and I think for the most part they like me, because I think a lot of people have like really good intuition. They really trust their instincts, and that's a divine thing. Actually, right here, this is my wife. I just pulled up, and she's riding her bike too. She's doing deliveries as well. You see her wave. We just happened to run into each other there. And you can see ahead is the Transamerica Pyramid. It's a really beautiful sight. This is Columbus Avenue. And anytime you ride down Columbus Avenue, you see that Transamerica Pyramid. It's just a really, really special sight, a really special view. So anyway, thank you guys for taking the time to listen today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please listen whenever you can. My wife says she likes to listen when she's going to sleep. She says it's like a good bedtime story. But whenever you get a chance to listen, share with your friends and family. It'd be greatly appreciated. And we'll see you again on the next episode of Around the World in San Francisco. Have a great night.